Teal dear, your diet is sexist. It's also probably a little bit racist. And it is definitely problematic. And now we're going to sit back and be told this by our moral betters whilst I laugh hysterically at their stupidity. And kicking us off with our first world problems today is Vocative and the author Anne-Marie Dooling, who will state, "The eggplant emoji is the next frontier of online harassment." Of course it is. Perhaps the most discussed character in the emoji library, the eggplant has taken an aggressive turn. Once just a succulent vegetable, then notorious on social media as a representation of male genitalia, and widely used to denote sexual interest, it is now being used as a weapon against women on social media. Because why wouldn't it be? It may seem silly to point at cartoon text speak as the beginning of a problem. Yes, it absolutely is. But the way we interact online has changed with our language, and so has our ability to consent to what is sent to us. Few characters have inspired the spirited debate the eggplant has. With its bulbous tip and sleek curvature, it quickly climbed the emoji ranks to become a fan favorite, used in flirty text, cheeky jokes, and candid social media conversations between sex industry workers. The popular, and not safe for work hashtag, Eggplant Friday, through which Twitter's most sexually flirtatious community very publicly shares X-rated photos, is just one use of the shorthand phallus's ability to bring people together. Well, this doesn't sound like a problem to me at all. People can do and will always find euphemisms for sexual activity. This is nothing new. But you keep going and tell us all about how the humble aubergine is so very problematic. The symbolism of the eggplant has become so widely accepted that on any given day, you may not even find a single emoji within the hashtag Eggplant Friday tagged Vine clips and twit pics of proud erect male members. Evocative analysis, and I'm sure it was very scientific, showed that within the last month, there was just over 200,000 uses of the emoji within the tweet, and only 63 of those mentioned hashtag Eggplant Friday, though the hashtag itself earned 5,135 tweets on its own beyond the cartoon character. In fact, foodies be damned, a search of Instagram for the same emoji would turn up nothing at all. Use of the eggplant doesn't register on the photo platform anymore after a battle over guidelines in which administrators of the photo community took the ability to search for eggplant emoji off the app, even though users begged to be able to search for their favorite vegetable just as they can search for the peach emoji and the peeled banana, not the most innocent of emojis themselves. So basically, it seems people are getting really butthurt over a euphemism. But of course, we need to think of the women. While a war rages on to hashtag Free the Eggplant, a campaign dedicated to restoring the visibility of the character on Instagram, and possibly even return it to its splendor as a Mediterranean food staple, it was only a matter of time before it became used to make women feel uncomfortable in online spaces. Eggplant emoji is the digital catcall. Seemingly harmless, but at its core a symbolic representation of old-fashioned masculinity and dominance over women, particularly when found in somewhat intimate digital settings. Direct messages on Twitter, chats and texts, the notorious Facebook Others inbox. Yes, I think you missed out something about an accusation of misogyny in there. But what really gets me about this, beyond the blatant stupidity of this, is this final paragraph. Hashtag Eggplant Friday is a gratuitous social media expression of open sexual exploration, but using this emoji for harassment is the antithesis of all that. Yes, hashtag Eggplant Friday photos are graphic, an in-your-face example of wanton public sexting, but they are invited. Beyond that community when used to open conversation with an unknown internet user, or in conversations where the context doesn't follow, it becomes harassment, apparently, somehow. Unrequested sending an emoji, a sexual photograph, a graphic GIF, or charged image to a woman online is still symbolic of an act of degradation. Oh my god, where to begin? So the eggplant is basically being used as a public euphemism for, hey, here's an eggplant, you know that now some explicit stuff is going to come up, and that it's going to be done in quite a public way, but it's still kind of a warning to people. Now, just because some people use this particular emoji for that purpose, that does not mean that that is all that that emoji represents. A plant is just a plant. And then there's this bullshit at the end here. Unrequested sending an emoji, a sexual photograph, a graphic GIF, or a charged image. You are really going to say that a small pixel version of a plant is the exact same level as sending someone a picture of your penis? No. This is absurd. You are looking for an excuse and for a reason to be a whiny little victim. Putting on this thin veneer of, oh, won't you please think of the women, is just fucking sad. Because it really is just painting this idea that women cannot look after themselves. In your world, a woman picks up their phone, has a message from a number that they don't recognize, and it's a small picture of an aubergine, and they suddenly faint into a weeping pile on the floor, unable to handle the clear sexual harassment and degradation that they have received. In reality, a woman picks up her phone, realizes there's a message from a number they don't know, it's a small picture of an eggplant, and they delete it. Stop treating women like children. And the next thing that I think about this, apart from the blatant infantilizing of women, is the fact that this is ultimately kind of a very covert war on male sexuality. Men are expressing sexual desire somewhere, somehow. We must destroy it, for it is sexist and misogynist! Men are being open and honest about their feelings and their emotions in regards to sexual feelings and desire. Fuck you! Stop oppressing women and degrading them! Somehow. Please stop trying to turn food items into political weapons, lest we all find ourselves in Clemson University, who had to apologize for holding an event that served Mexican food. The event, named Maximum Mexican, included food servers wearing sombreros and several other Mexican-themed decorations. While the overwhelming response among students was positive on social media, one student, one paragon of virtue, one shining beacon of morality, a lone individual sacrificing themselves to be the moral compass for all of humanity, took to Twitter to call out the school for being culturally insensitive, where they said, really, at Clemson Univ, at Clemson Pres, I thought your focus was hashtag diversity, hashtag CU Fiesta Fiasco, hashtag culturally insensitive. And instead of doing what any sane organization would have done and said, shut up and grow up, Amanda, Clemson University issued a tweet the next day to apologize to anyone who was offended. Our intention was to celebrate Mexican cuisine, which is a student favorite on campus. We will review future programming and partner with the campus community to create events that more appropriately represent food and culture. To which the response from our brave social justice paladin was, thank you to all the amazing people who stood up to bigotry. Can't wait for Clemson to see how great real Hispanic culture is. Yes, real Hispanic culture. Now, I'm quite disappointed that the author of these posts seems to have deleted their Twitter account. However, I seem to have found what I was looking for on Twitter anyway, because the internet never forgets. And this is someone who screenshotted the original tweet. Apparently, the woman who authored the tweet changed her original profile picture, presumably because she seems to be a very middle-class white girl, telling Hispanic people how to Hispanic. I wish I could say I was surprised. But no, apparently, according to this very middle-class, very white girl, if you are a Hispanic person and you are eating food like this, it's because you don't know what real Hispanic culture is. And you need to have it explained to you by a middle-class white college girl, in what would totally not be considered white-splaining, as some morons like to term it. But it's not only pictures of food that are the issue, or even food stuff itself that's problematic. Nope. Even your beverages are oppressing women. Apparently, misogyny dictates that masculinity is lauded, which is toxic to those who don't exactly conform to our narrow societal ideal of manhood. Drinking beer is cool. Drinking appletinis is gay and feminine. Playing football is manly. Playing in the marching band, doing theatre, or singing in show choir is nerdy. High School Musical and Glee are fine examples. Drinking coffee is fairly universal in college culture. It's popular to complain about not being awake until you've had your first cup, or to humble brag about how many cups you have per day. It's basic to drink pumpkin spice lattes. Can you see where this is going yet? Which brings our author to their point, assuming they actually had one. Why the pumpkin spice latte hate? Clearly not everyone thinks that they taste bad or make you feel sick to your stomach. I myself have never experienced these ill effects. I sit here in Eldridge Commons wearing yoga pants and drinking my sugar-free pumpkin spice latte with soy milk. Making fun of people who order drinks with long names is a whole separate issue, so I won't touch on it here. That I ordered from the Science Center coffee bar just a few minutes ago. Frankly, it's pretty delicious, and while not cheap at $3.25, it's manageable every once in a while. It's a seasonal item at the school's coffee bars, Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, etc., which, if you've taken intro economics, is simple supply and demand. If consumers expect that an item will not be supplied in the near future, they'll buy more of it while it's available. In light of these factors, it's hard for me to understand why some people think pumpkin spice latte enjoyers are out of their mind. Holy fuck, the projection. You talk somewhat mockingly about people humble bragging around coffee, and then you sit there like, oh, I'm just sitting in the Eldridge Commons in my yoga pants, drinking my $3.25 cup of coffee. Now let me tell you about how economics works, because I took an introductory course on it in college. So, bear with me for a moment here. I can't help but think that this entire little article thing has come out of the fact that this woman spoke to someone that they knew, presumably a man, about how she likes pumpkin spice lattes, and he was just like, well, I don't particularly enjoy them, I don't really see the appeal. And she's taken it as some sort of personal affront or insult, which clearly means that it's attacking all women, which is how she can go on to say, it all comes back to sexism. People love to hate on what girls like. When I was in middle school, people made fun of Uggs and North Faces and Taylor Swift. In high school and bleeding into college, people make fun of leggings. They're not pants, your butt is showing. And selfies and Instagram and Pinterest and Lily Pulitzer and flower crowns and crop tops and Grey's Anatomy and mason jars and Starbucks and pumpkin spice lattes. Oh my god, so people don't like everything that you like, and somehow that makes them sexist. Get over yourself. The pumpkin spice latte hate seems to me like a symptom of a larger problem. Girls don't get to have valid emotions. You're being irrational. Is it your time of the month? Or likes and dislikes, especially if they're considered basic? Even when they like something that guys like too, they're accused of faking it to get male attention. Fake geek girls, which is definitely not a thing. This is just an article about your own personal insecurity. It's just you bitching and whining about how you think other people are judging you all the time. Also, women never fake anything to get men interested in them. Really. So, makeup doesn't exist, push-up bras don't exist, Spanx don't exist. But no, women never fake anything to get men interested. It just doesn't happen. Of course it doesn't. But now we're going to do some science. I mean, far be it from me to argue with this woman on this issue when she thinks that something is a symptom of a larger problem. But I actually have an explanation that is not ideologically driven for why men and women have different tastes. And it's really rather simple, and once again linked into biology. Men and women sense things in similar ways. We see things, we smell things, touch things, taste things, and so on. But not all senses are created equally. And the sense of taste is a rather curious one. And I'm going to read quite a lengthy answer to a question that was posed on the internet here because it sums up where I'm going with this quite nicely and will lay a good foundation for the point that I'm going to make. So, a person here has asked, is it true that girls have more taste buds than boys? And if so, why? And the answer has come from Professor Tim Jacob at Cardiff University. Some people are super tasters, some are regular tasters, and others are non-tasters based on their ability to taste specific bitter substances. Some people do not detect these substances at all, while others find them intensely bitter and offensive. About a quarter of people, 25%, are super tasters, half, 50%, are regular tasters, and a quarter, the remaining 25%, are non-tasters. Women are super tasters or non-tasters more frequently, while men tend to be regular tasters. This applies to children as well. The anatomical data also supports the gender difference. Women do indeed have more fungiformal papillae, the little red dots on the front surface of your tongue, and more taste buds. The ability to taste or not taste these bitter substances appears to be determined by genetics. Apparently, if you have a double copy of the gene that confers sensitivity to bitter taste, then you are a super taster. If you have one copy, you are a regular taster, and if you have none, you are a non-taster. The tongues of super tasters are physically different from non-tasters. Super tasters have more taste buds on their tongue. Consequently, there are more taste buds to send bitter messages to the brain. Our age plays a role in the number of taste buds on our tongue. Children have the most taste buds, which might explain why they are more sensitive and tend to be more fussy about what they eat. There is a decrease in taste sensitivity with aging in women. Only about 7% of women aged 65 and older were super tasters, as compares with the expected 25% in younger women. Super tasters tend to be thin, and non-tasters tend to be heavier. Possibly because of the intensity of flavors, super tasters tend to eat less food. Non-tasters, on the other hand, may eat more while searching for a fuller flavor. In evolution, super tasters may have had some advantage, since many toxins are bitter in taste. This is particularly important for women since they are responsible for the diet of the baby in the womb and also after birth while the baby is being breastfed. Interestingly, the sensitivity of women to bitterness commonly increases during the first trimester of pregnancy, when the fetus is most vulnerable to damage by many toxins. For example, in some women who typically love coffee, a strong aversion to coffee's bitterness occurs as soon as they become pregnant. So, human beings have quite an interesting genetic phenomenon going on with their sense of taste. Some people are simply able to taste more than others. And what is really interesting about this is then how that is spread between women and men. Now, this answer mentioned a little bit about it, but there is another study I'm going to jump to which gives more accurate data on this spread. NewsHealth.com, for instance, talks about some of the differences between men and women in regards to their senses, and they list for taste here. Considering how closely smell and taste are related, it's not surprising that women also tend to have more sensitive palates than men. In fact, research from Yale University has found that women actually have more taste buds on their tongue. About 35% of women and only 15% of men can call themselves super tasters, which means they identify flavors such as bitter, sweet, and sour more strongly than others. And then there's a little bit more information I'd like to share with you from a study from ScienceDaily.com from the University of Copenhagen. And this is one of the largest studies that has ever been performed on children and young people in regards to sense of taste. And the most relevant part for us is this one. Girls are better at recognizing taste than boys. One of the many findings shows that girls are generally better at recognizing tastes than boys. They are better at recognizing all concentrations of both sweet and sour tastes. The difference is not dramatic, but it is quite clear. It is also a known fact that women generally have a finer sense of taste than men. According to the figures, boys need an average of approximately 10% more sourness and approximately 20% more sweetness to recognize the taste. And those figures are very important. Why, you might ask? It's simple. Men require a lot more sweetness than women in their foodstuff on average in order to actually taste that that food is sweet, but men don't require as much from the sour or the bitter end as women do to notice that a food is sour. And this difference is actually quite important. This is why women will often prefer sweeter foods to men. It's also why men tend to prefer more sour foods. It's simply that out of all the flavor groups, sour is the one which men are best at tasting. Add to this the fact that most men are within this average taste group. There's very few super tasting men and very few non-tasting men. Whereas in this instance, on the bell curve, women have a more pronounced presence at either edge. There are more non-tasting women, but equally there are more super tasting women, which might very well go some way towards explaining the sort of cultural knowledges that we have that women like things like chocolate and honeys and pastries and things like that, which is why they become quite traditional wooing gifts. I'm sure we're all familiar with this idea that chocolate is an aphrodisiac for women. Well, this pattern of taste bud distribution amongst humans is why chocolate and sweet things actually do more for more women than they do for men. So the fact that men, on average, do not enjoy pumpkin spice lattes as much as women is simply down to the fact that it probably doesn't taste the same for them as it does for you. It's not down to sexism, it's down to science. Stop using the fact that men just don't like what you like as some sort of excuse to start shouting at them that they are sexist, and stop using it as an excuse to project your insecurities about how you think you're being judged by everyone. This entire tirade that you've gone on about pumpkin spice lattes is your own first world problem about how paranoid you are that other people in the confines of their own mind might be thinking that you're basic, whatever the fuck that means. Grow a spine and drink whatever beverage you want.